Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Um, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'du fa'awzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining all of us today for session 2 of the Quran and Science Symposium. As has just been introduced, I'm going to be giving the third and final talk of this session. And I'm going to be talking about having a career in science and technology with a bachelor's degree. So my bio was just given, but I wanted to go into a little bit more detail, just kind of saying what exactly I'm doing with the bachelor's degree. After graduating, I was offered a position at Frontier Technology in Beverly, Massachusetts, as an associate data scientist. So what exactly I do is my work is split between the theoretical side of developing space satellite sensors and the software side. So I work on developing algorithms for camera sensor calibration and simulate space imagery given very specific camera sensors. Basically, I simulate what images will look like in space, and I write algorithms to process and analyze those images once they're actually captured. I use star catalogs that have been developed by NASA that contain more than 1 billion stars, planets, galaxies, asteroids, and other debris in the universe. I put up some sample images here that are actually from my work of what some of the simulated images actually look like right here, and what how we actually model these specific satellites to so we can get an idea of what the images will actually look like. So that's a gist of what I actually do. It's very interesting. I love astronomy, and getting it with just a bachelor's degree is pretty good. So as was also mentioned, I got my bachelor's of science in imaging science. And the biggest thing that people ask whenever I tell them this is, what is imaging science? This is a term not a lot of people know. To put it simply, imaging science studies the design and development of scientific imaging systems. These systems being any scientific instrument that takes pictures, MRI machines, X-ray machines, telescopes, microscopes, satellites, etc. So I want to first take a step back and kind of talk about how a photo is taken. A very simple process that maybe you don't think about every day. I have this little schematic here at the bottom that I'm just going to go through. Start off with this light source right here, and it's imaging an object. In this case, I have a tree. So let's say a camera is taking a picture of this tree that is illuminated by this light source. That tree will give off light waves and particles and photons and electrons that will enter this camera and hit a sensor that will collect that information. That information has to be converted to digital values so you can view it on a display screen right here. This entire process is known as the imaging chain. And imaging science studies every aspect of this imaging chain, from the light source, the physics of the initial illumination, to the software of actually seeing it on a screen. So I hope that gives somewhat of an understanding to what it is. And like I mentioned, the different types of instruments that exist, MRIs, X-rays, telescopes, the different fields of research you can go into with imaging science is very vast. And I have this list on the side here of all of the different research opportunities that exist under the umbrella of imaging science. And for my current work, it's in astronomy. But while I was at university, I touched upon cultural heritage imaging, which is imaging historical documents using infrared thermography. There is also magnetic resonance imaging, MRIs, human and computer vision using eye trackers to track pupil movements. There is remote sensing, which is drones. Anything in science that centers on taking images, studying every aspect of that is what I do. And I have the absolute honor of getting an opportunity to do it with just a bachelor's degree. So I hope that gives a brief introduction. I didn't want to spend too much time on it, but I hope it's interesting to some people. When it comes to imaging science, the draw for me was the combination of these different fields, how it combines math, physics, engineering, and technology into a major that can allow you to adapt it to any field in science. If you want to go into the medical field or if you want to go into astronomy, um, you're able to do that. And I saw that it would allow me to focus my studies on the area of my choosing. And I actually recalled this verse from the Holy Quran when I was putting this presentation together. It's from Surah Al-Dariyat, chapter 51, verse 48. And it has to do with the expansion of the universe. Allah states, "And the heaven we built with our own powers, and indeed we go on expanding it." I remember the first time I stumbled upon this verse, I thought it was remarkable Allah had informed us in the very beginning what was and is happening in the universe. There's also this verse from Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter 21, verse 31. "Do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth were a closed up mass? Then we clove them as under, and we made from water every living thing. Will they not then believe?" This is talking about the start of the universe, our planet, and how it began. And also, if our attendees recall, the verses that were beautifully recited at the start of the session also falling into our universe. It's one thing to appreciate science exclusively from a science perspective, but to see how Allah has guided us and informed us of things that were discovered by mankind centuries later is remarkable. You realize how incredible all of Allah's creations are in the universe, on this planet, in our bodies, in our minds. Everything Allah has created has a purpose. And to be able to study that in any aspect is incredible. That's something I always keep in mind whenever, as I'm pursuing this career. Now, the key thing I want people to take away from this is the importance of the field, not just in science, but of science and technology. They're changing every single day with new advancements, and because of that, there are so many opportunities in every aspect. And with just a bachelor's degree, I've been able to go right into the work field by the grace of Allah and apply what I've learned in just 4 years to real life. With that being said, that doesn't mean this is the kind of field where you only do 4 years of education and leave it. This is from my perspective, and I know the previous two speakers did an excellent job talking about more advanced degrees. So this is me speaking just as an undergraduate. But what I found is that when I really set foot in my major, I found myself wanting to learn more. Not because it's necessary for a job, but because I genuinely became interested in what I was learning. And there is heavy emphasis on education in Islam and Ahmadiyyat from our beloved Khalifas. And that goes all the way to the beginning. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said, "It is a bounden duty of every Muslim man and woman to acquire knowledge." And Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V, may God strengthen his hands, has repeatedly said for every Ahmadi pursuing an education to set the Nobel Prize as their minimum target. And while this is certainly a challenge, it is a very blessed one, coming straight from Hazur. It's amazing to be able to pursue a career in science and technology, and especially able to do it as a woman, as an Ahmadi woman. And that's what I want to get to next. I had to Google this, but there have only been 10 women in history who have received a Nobel Prize in either physics or chemistry. And that's since 1901, when the first prizes were awarded. So that's 10 women across 120 years. There's not enough women in science, and there's not enough women in technology, so there certainly isn't enough women in a field combining both, such as imaging science, the field that I'm in. Although the number is increasing, it's still a minority, which is why being a woman in a field of science is something very special. I mentioned that quote from the Holy Prophet ﷺ earlier about acquiring knowledge and how that pertains to both men and women equally. With this stigma behind women in the fields of science and technology, there is something very special behind achieving these specific milestones. Achieving a career in science is not incongruous to our roles as Ahmadi women. I'm not the best person to speak on balancing a career with family life, but other Ahmadi women that I've met, it's certainly doable. And having an education is not just beneficial in one aspect. It's not only for your research, but this education can be passed on to your children. Even just the thought of pursuing knowledge and constantly learning something new can be passed down to your kids, and inshallah, they can follow in those footsteps as well. Um, and of course, we have our beloved Khalifa to guide us with that. Um, and that in and of itself is a privilege. So just to wrap all this up, the biggest takeaways that I have for this is to show what you can get with a bachelor's degree, undergraduate degree in the field of science and technology in the STEM field, and how you can have a successful career. And a bachelor's degree is a pathway to more advanced degrees, but it can still be useful on its own. It's a stepping stone for further knowledge, and it's our duty as Muslims to gain that knowledge. So, although I do have a career right now with a bachelor's degree, I do inshallah plan to pursue further education because the love for science and our duty as Muslims is there. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is I've been able to achieve all of this by the grace of Allah as an Ahmadi woman. And I wanted to end by saying for any young students that are watching, boys and girls, that they find a career path and pursue it to the fullest and acquire as much knowledge as they can, inshallah. Jazakallah.